Good morning, everyone. It's great to see a lot of lovely women here and a lot of men here to support us. It's a wonderful audience and a great morning. We are starting with a fantastic session by none other than Tanvi Bhatt. Now, to introduce Tanvi, we've all heard of branding. We all own brands and we've all heard of branding. Now, have you heard of personal branding? We might have seen a lot of this, but perhaps not noticed. Here is Tanvi, who will give us a perspective on how personal branding is going to really improve your business and take it to a completely new level. And she is somebody who has come up with many formulae on her own. It's amazing, you have to listen to that. And she has come up with real funda on personal branding, which she has evolved in terms like karmanomics. We are all curious to hear that, Tanvi. Anyway, going ahead, let me just introduce Tanvi. She's known for being a thought leader in the foray of personal branding in India, and she personifies the power of thought leadership in branding legacies, which she beautifully imbibes in your heart as she inspires you to dream beyond boardrooms. As a pioneer in personal branding in India, Tanvi empowers leaders to become thought leaders and thought leaders to become legends at Tanvi Bhatt International, India's premier personal branding company. She is the author of Tools of Transcendence, the secret toolkit of thought leaders who build iconic personal brands, a book that teaches leaders how to think, act, and to become thought leaders in their industry. Tanvi was honored as a global young entrepreneur at the iconic Stevie Awards at New York in November 2014 for her accomplishments as a young woman entrepreneur. Applause, please. She has been bestowed with International Alliance for Women's World of Difference Award, a global honor conferred upon a selection of 100 women who are passionately contributing to women's economic empowerment in March 2014 at Washington, D.C., USA. In February 2020, she was felicitated as one of the 101 most fabulous coaches in India by the Economic Times World HRD Congress. That's Tanvi Bhatt for you. Aren't we all waiting to hear her? Let's hear a loud yes. Thank you so much. Over to you, Tanvi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. Good morning, Kochi. How are we all beautifully dressed women feeling today? Just great? Fabulous, right? To be out and about after 2 years of house arrest, on top of everything going on in our lives, right? Doesn't it feel absolutely ecstatic to be out and about, meet amazing fellow women entrepreneurs, inspire yourself to do more and be more? Yes? Yes. So on that note, thank you, TiE, for inviting me. I keep coming back to Kochi again and again, years after years. In fact, my last, keynote engagement in Kerala was at a CI event just before pandemic hit us. So it feels amazing to be back as life almost is back to normal, right? How many of y'all, this is like the very first event y'all are attending after 2 years? Few of y'all. But events are back. It's fun, right? To be back, meet amazing people, learn from each other, and grow together, right? And today's session is going to be focused on helping each one of you understand the power that we have within us, not just as an entrepreneur, not just as a woman, but as someone who has to look at their own life from a different perspective than thinking about just business, empires, and profits and loss and leading from boardrooms day in and day out. Today's session is a celebration of you, your potential as a human being, as a spiritual being walking this beautiful planet Earth for a moment in time. And I'm going to share a different perspective on the journey of building your personal brand from the lens with which I have been not only building my brand over the last decade of my professional life, but helping amazing visionary leaders, thought leaders, women leaders like you all do it for themselves. So are we ready to celebrate the brand woman? Fantastic. But before that, let's have a huge round of applause for each one of you for, pulling up our socks and heels every single day and going out there and conquering world and life as we know it. But while we do this, the most important thing we need to conquer is ourself. Do you agree with me on that? Yes? It becomes extremely important for us. As women, we are expected to be selfless, correct? Do we try our best to be selfless? Yes? I'm going to give you a little different perspective of being selfless today, which has nothing to do being, the person who literally puts her heart and soul and dreams, at the feet of the entire family and compromises on all those aspects of her personal ambitions and desires, but being selfless from a selfish perspective. And this selflessness element of your thought leadership will empower you to become the most dangerous person in the room. We women have been told to, more often than not, keep our mouths shut. Probably not in Kerala. I know it's a slightly different culture over here compared to the rest of the country. Keep your mouth shut. Do your do. Don't have a loud voice. Don't have a strong opinion. Don't ruffle any feathers, correct? Don't we love to ruffle some feathers every now and then? And why should we not? When was the last time you ruffled some feathers in your industry? Let's just talk about industry, not our homes. The power of becoming the most dangerous person in the room is that you do not let yourself be held back by 4 illusions of prisons that most women succumb to. What are these illusions of prisons? The shame or the social shame that we feel, the fear of judgment. What will people say? In Hindi, we say, log kya kahenge, right? More dreams don't happen because you're afraid log kya kahenge. Allow yourself to transcend your shame or social shame of log kya kahenge. What are people going to say if I do this, if I don't do this as well? Allow yourself to transcend beyond the lens of ego from which we make a lot of decisions in our life and miss out on a lot of opportunities in our life because we are held back soul than the lens of your ego. Number 3, your limits. Actually not your limits. Illusions of limits, correct? Your limits are only those things that you believe you can't do because you've never tried them. Agree? So why don't we look at them as opportunities and limits and tell ourselves that let me at least try it instead of just pushing it under the rug saying that I can't do it just because I've never tried it. So why don't we challenge our limits every single day and make a promise to ourselves that every year I will define at least 3 new limits which I will shatter by doing something new, trying something new, and becoming someone new than who I was last year. And all these 3 elements of yourself is ruled by that queen of maladies called the fear. The fear of being judged, seen, given negative criticism to, so on and so forth. How many of y'all have not done things in your life, taken decisions, made phone calls, built businesses, pursued dreams because you were afraid of failure or you were afraid of setbacks or you were afraid of criticism? Each and every one of us has done that. And only when we, especially we women, stop victimizing ourselves and holding ourselves as prisoners of these illusions of self-concept, as I like to call it, and transcend beyond our social shame, ego limits, and fears, will be able to unleash the true power of our soul and our minds. Do we agree? Only when we allow ourselves the permission, and this, I learned it the hard way as well in my journey of being an entrepreneur, not even a woman entrepreneur. I have suffered and lost opportunities and made mistakes whenever I allowed either of these 4 illusions of prisons to hold me back in the last 10 years of being a professional in the industry. And this is a lesson I want to leave behind with you all today, that these are the mistakes I made, and lost out on a lot of opportunities and growth. And I don't want you all to make these mistakes, because if we are not going to stand up and transcend this self-prison, nobody else is going to do it for us. The society is more than happy to see us cower behind these illusions of shackles. It's our responsibility to identify them, acknowledge them today, and finally step out of them, because they only exist in your mind. They are not real. And only when you allow yourself to do this, you beautiful women in the room, and of course, all the gentlemen, the philosophy applies for all of us. Only when you allow yourself to do each of these things, then you'll be able to truly begin your journey as a thought leader who can then build a truly legendary brand, whether it's personal, organizational, any cause that you're passionate about, anything that you want to do in your life, only when you choose to become the most dangerous person in the room, because the most dangerous woman or man in the room is that person who is not affected by what are people going to think or say. They will take every opportunity that comes that way and make more opportunities than anyone else in that room, because they're not afraid. They are not skepticism about the outcomes of these decisions that they will now take, without the illusions of the SEL of prisons that we speak about today. And then they can truly allow themselves the permission to rise in their journey of thought leadership. When I speak about personal branding, I like to look at it from a slightly different lens than my peers perhaps might in the industry. Again, lessons learned the hard way of being on the front lines doing that, and helping more and more leaders to transcend from just being a leader in the industry to thinking like a thought leader. Two perspectives that have shaped my own journey as a professional and, of course, a human being are understanding the philosophies of spiritual thought leadership and strategic thought leadership in helping us as human beings truly fulfill the purpose of our human existence today. What do you mean by spiritual thought leadership? Spiritual thought leadership will inspire you to truly live your life from the soul rooms instead of our board rooms every single day. Not very long ago, in fact, in the middle of the pandemic, this is when I was able to mine these beautiful insights about life as I know it today and the philosophy of spiritual thought leadership. One fine day, I allowed my Arjuna consciousness to step up and ask a few critical questions to my Krishna consciousness about the purpose of being here. And what I'm going to share with you all today are some beautiful insights that I received on why do we need to step out, speak up, and contribute towards the collective consciousness of humanity, and as a result of this, build a beautiful personal brand, identity, influence, and impact for decades to come. So the first question is, why even do it all? What is the purpose of being human? What is the purpose of doing the work that we are doing? I believe the purpose of being human is not just have a human life to exist on this planet for 70 years or 25,000 days. It is to outlive our lives for another 25,000 days by creating a body of work, knowledge, wisdom that enriches the future of our civilization. It is to enrich the entire human collective consciousness. And today, in the so-called advanced 21st century, we have forgotten that we are spiritual beings on a human adventure. We think it's about you live only once philosophy that we hear today so rampantly. We have forgotten that we are going to come again and again and again to settle our spiritual debts, our karma. But the only way we'll be able to truly settle is to understand what is that one weakness that makes us human and how do we transcend that. We are able to build our personal brand when we have clarity about two perspectives. What is your dharma and what is your karma? But from the lens of your brand. Your brand karma is the work that you do day in and day out. Your brand dharma becomes the lens with which you take those decisions around your brand karma. To do or not to do, to be or not to be, to lead or not to lead. Now, while karma is essentially black or white, dharma is where life gets very interesting because it's a gray area, right? It's only dependent on your lens, your spiritual maturity, whether to do that thing or not. And when you choose to pay heed to your inner whispers that scream out loud in those moments of me time, that is when you understand what you are missing out on in your life. And when you start doing all those things to listen to the true voice of your soul, you will be able to do justice to your brand dharma and ultimately build your brand karma in a single lifetime of doing the work that you're doing as an entrepreneur, professional, homemaker. And trust me, it does not matter if you're an entrepreneur, executive, homemaker, retired professionals, ex-military professional. We all are in the same boat, bound by the laws of time, dharma, and karma. So the sooner you realize that, you'll be able to build your brand, your personal brand, your company's brand, more proactively and intentionally with the right lens of making the decisions that truly make a spiritual contribution that you are here to make towards a collective human consciousness. And third insight that I received as a part of this journey is your personal brand will get built on default when you start navigating your brand karma with your brand dharma. Ask yourself, what are you here to do, build, accomplish? The reason of being, your raison d'etre, we say. Why are you here? What do you want to do? What are you called to do? Only when you answer these questions for yourself, over and above the work that we are doing day in and day out, only when you become a server to the larger consciousness, not just your own limited perspectives of existence, of leading a human life. Only when you truly step up with the mission to serve is when you will be able to fulfill the true dharma of this human life. And that is a very spiritual perspective of looking at it, right? Why do it at all? How to do it? Of course, that's an art, and that is what I'm going to teach you today. So while this is a very beautiful, inspiring perspective that comes in from none other than Krishna, I thought let's look at the different perspective of strategy and thinking like a thought leader to help amazing women leaders like you now actually take this insight and perspective, this wisdom, and employ it on a day-to-day life to actually go and build your personal brand using the knowledge and wisdom that Chanakya gave us, Anvikshiki. Anvikshiki is known as the art of strategic thinking. Is there anyone in this room who's a student of Chanakya or strategy? Are we all aware of Chanakya? Brilliant. So Chanakya was obviously known as the kingmaker of the Mauryan Empire, who took India to its most powerful heights. The most golden era of the Indian civilization was contributed to Chanakya and his guidance as a kingmaker. Now, what did he teach us? He taught us the art of strategic thinking. And I have learned that art of strategic thinking to help you brilliant king and queen makers of today to put together a roadmap on how do you build your personal brand like the global thought leaders do. The few global thought leaders that we look at today, whether these are Indian or global, are those people who've taken the initiative of standing out, speaking out, sharing their knowledge, wisdom, lessons, perspectives with the ecosystem that they are part of. They don't just look at their businesses as businesses and call it a 9 to 5. They go beyond what they are expected to do to pay it forward. That is the hallmark of a true thought leader. And that is how brand dharma and karma come together to help you build your personal brand as someone who is here to outlive herself or himself. The 7 roles that I want you to start thinking about playing in your journey of building your personal brand as a thought leader are as follows. Number 1, start thinking differently. Start thinking about not only your personal and professional growth and transcendence, but about the spiritual and social contribution and legacy that you believe you are here to make towards a larger collective consciousness. Number 2, once you have clarity on what is that contribution you would like to make, challenge an obsolete way of doing something in the industry and introduce your brand new idea, perspective, solution, service offering, experience that you are bringing on the table as an entrepreneur, as a change maker, as a disruptor to solve that problem. This is what thought leaders are known to do. They are known to solve problems and unleash a brand new revolution of doing things that will help the entire humanity move towards a day after tomorrow, today. That is what you have to do. Challenge the status quo, challenge the norm, be a challenger. Then, once you've become a challenger, you need to understand what is it that the audience needs from you to create that first step forward momentum in their respective lives to adopt your big idea that you're bringing on the table. So create a macro position for what is it that your big idea will do, and then add a micro game plan for your audience to adopt that big idea. Be an evangelist of your change, promise, nirvana that you are promising as a change maker in your industry, and create a roadmap. When I say create a roadmap, these could be products, services, experiences, ecosystems, platforms, intellectual properties, experiences for people to understand how to adopt your big idea as a thought leader. Because as a thought leader, you are in the business of creation of a brand new way of thinking, being, doing in your industry. What is that? Your big idea. Create a roadmap for people to adopt, experience, and further evangelize that big idea to their ecosystems, so you get an army of viral evangelists who support you and your big idea. And then become a strategist. Have a strategy to then pilot your big idea with a certain target audience, take their feedback, enhance it further, and then roll it out at a national and a global level. There are tiers of thought leadership that you should be looking at. First is you're an expert. Rise from an expert to becoming an influencer, from an influencer to becoming a disruptor, from a disruptor you become a national authority, and from a national authority you become a global legend. This is a strategic transcendence of your identity in the industry that you should be aiming at scaling. And then you have to be the mentor, teacher, and advisor to help more and more people sample your knowledge, wisdom, insights, perspectives to bring it all together as a lifestyle for them. So as a teacher or a mentor, you need to speak, write, and evangelize your knowledge, perspective, wisdom, expertise that you are bringing on the table as a thought leader to help people sample it, adopt it, and do it yourself in their respective lives. And then finally, as an advisor, like I said, as a future king and queen makers of our generation, you have to be seen as someone who knows how to build trust, authority, and credibility for yourself in the industry by building a loyal army of supporters, evangelists, and champions for not only your big idea, but also carry on the mantle when you are no longer there in the future. So that's the kind of tribe you have to build by following each of these 7 steps or 7 roles of a thought leader in your journey of building your personal brand as a thought leader. While this is a very high-level view of looking at it, to deep dive into this journey, that one thing I want to leave behind with you all today is to learn and begin your journey of thinking like a thought leader. Because that is one thing that we've never been taught, how to think differently. And that becomes the genesis of your journey of thought leadership and personal brand management. So for that, I'm going to be sharing a book that I've written with you all. You can just scan the QR code, download the book. It's a playbook, not just a theoretical book that you read and you forget. It's a book filled with exercises that will help you tap into these 7 dimensions which I spoke to you about and how to think like a thought leader, build your own journey of thought leadership from the lens of Chanakya, and of course then live your journey of leadership and thought leadership from the lens of Krishna, of course, with the right soul room that you need to then embody in your life. So I hope it's been a slightly provocative and inspirational morning for you today to think beyond the mundane horizons of leadership and begin your journey of transcendence towards thought leadership in your respective lives of entrepreneurship. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience and your kind attention.
Thank you, Tanvi. That was great. I'm sure by now we have heard so many terms and all the terms that came from Chanakya, plus also the evolution of, from being an entrepreneur to becoming a thought leader and also being an influencer. And that is how you become a powerful brand. So as a personal brand. Now, I just have a few questions which are very specific to Tanvi. Tanvi, can you share an example of a woman entrepreneur who has actually built a global brand?
Certainly. Are we aware of a lady called Oprah Winfrey?
Yeah.
Yes, more of us than not. So Oprah started her journey. You all know her story, right? How she started her journey and where she's coming today. I personally believe she's one of the most powerful stories and examples of a woman coming from the most underprivileged or unfortunate backgrounds in an era where every possible odd was against her. And still to transcend all of these things, transcend the whole self-concept that we spoke about today and be the woman of substance that she is today. That is what I hopefully aspire each one of you to be, to really learn how to transcend the odds, believe in yourself, have that mission, have that purpose, and then build your personal brand. Dedicated. What was her mission? To inspire more and more and more women, not only of color, women across the world to truly live their best lives. That was the DNA of her personal brand, and that is a legacy that she has built. And I hope that most of you all will inspire yourself to have a purpose truly worth pursuing for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Who hasn't heard about Oprah Winfrey and who hasn't listened to her talks? And she continues to inspire, and she's always been a leader, a thought leader, influencing generations, even today. So the other thing is you have this book, Think Like a Thought Leader. What are the key takeaways of that book? Let's inspire them to buy the book and read it.
So, first of all, you just have to download the book. It's available, freely on my website. Just download it. The key takeaways are you will start to actually process the whole journey of thought leadership when you complete the exercises for yourself. There are exercises, 7 exercises in that book with a set of reflection questions and strategic steps that you can take. So reflection questions will help you get clarity on your thought leadership, on your why, on what you want to do, why you want to do that, how it inspires you and motivates you to truly do the work that matters to you, not just have businesses because that's what we've been doing. Have purpose-driven businesses or start purpose-driven businesses for our lives. The key takeaway is to get clarity on your purpose of life and then have a roadmap and a strategy to do the right things to build your visibility, to build your network, to build your influence, to build your digital brand presence, and all those aspects which you need today to have a global brand presence and following.
Thank you. There's a couple of things that we can really take away now. Listen carefully. How can a woman become more active in LinkedIn for managing their personal brand? Do you have the top 3 tips for building our brands on LinkedIn? Let's listen to her.
Okay, great. How many of you women in the room today are present on LinkedIn? Do you all have LinkedIn accounts? Okay, present. Okay, how many of you are active on LinkedIn? More or less, people who are present are active as well. I'm so glad to see that. Most of the rooms, the ratio drops by like 70%. People are active, hardly nowadays on LinkedIn. Which is shocking because in the last 2 years, if anything, LinkedIn's population has increased by 600% in the last 2 years globally, all right? So top 3 tips for all you amazing women in the room who are not even active or present on LinkedIn is create a profile for yourself which becomes the aspirational version of you. Things that you want to do in the industry and you want the world to know that you want to do in your industry. Because we are entrepreneurs, we will obviously not make the mistake of resume-fying our LinkedIn. This is a mistake which a lot of corporate leaders make. They just copy-paste their resumes and they call it their LinkedIn profile. LinkedIn profile becomes a hall of fame for you today, remember. People don't even Google you, they LinkedIn you first. So having a LinkedIn presence for your personal brand, your professional credibility and reputation is non-negotiable. So ensure that when you're creating your LinkedIn profile, it is an aspirational version of you for the work that you want to do. So all that I spoke to you about today, the clarity and the focus on what kind of work you want to do in the industry will really help you put together these thoughts and perspectives about your thought leadership, your legacy, your journey that you wish to map moving forward. We call it story shaping. So focus on story shaping on LinkedIn, then just storytelling. We are expected to be storytellers, correct?
Right.
Yeah, I want you to be a story shaper. What does a story shaper do? They are not only present and consuming content on LinkedIn, they are actively creating content. There are actually over 50 themes of content that you can create. But few things I want to share with you all right now. What kind of content you can start creating on a day-to-day basis is share your expertise, your knowledge, your wisdom, perspectives that life has taught you, insights, lessons, failures, setbacks. These are the stories that people want to hear on a platform like LinkedIn today that will inspire them not only to follow your lead, but become the best version of themselves by learning from your mistakes. So as a true thought leader, you are in the business of transcendence, of not just yourself, but of the ecosystem that you're a part of. Remember that. That is a hallmark of a true thought leader. So start becoming active by sharing content around these aspects of your life, your journey, and don't focus on women entrepreneurship as the hallmark that differentiates you, but as an entrepreneur. Stop playing the women card is the point I want to make over here, right? And finally, build a network of global women champions and connect with them to grow and expand your personal ecosystem of awareness, what's happening in the world, how women leaders across the world are playing the game of building, managing, and growing their personal brand on social media today. So identify the top 100 women in the world, in your industry or industries or areas of topic that you are passionate about learning and growing more into, and follow them, connect with them, network with them, interview them, host LinkedIn Lives with them, and collaborate with them in any capacity you can, both on LinkedIn and off LinkedIn, to grow your own brand influence and presence on this platform. I hope those 3 tips are good for you to kickstart your journey off LinkedIn.